North Korea is a relatively new country, stemming from the division of the Korean Peninsula in 1945 after World War II. The North, backed by the pro-communist Soviet Union, formed a government under Kim Il-sung and became what is now known as North Korea today. The Kim dynasty has neglected to focus on the natural rights of their citizens and has caused North Korea to suffer both economically and socially. The citizens of North Korea, as well as the government, are responsible for the future of global peace, but have been ill-prepared mentally and physically to lead and develop their country due to the government's restriction of rights and resources. Although North Korea claims that they are based on the collectivist principle, one for all and all for one, this can be proven incorrect through the extreme differences in the levels of wealth and lifestyle between the poor and the elite. Time and time again, North Korea has discriminated against individuals as well as their families based on their songbun, a caste system that groups people into core, wavering, or hostile classes. These discriminations can impact the lives of a North Korean citizen, as their social class defines the quality of their food, housing, education, and employment. Those in the lowest level of the songbun experience many hardships in their daily lives. North Korea is one of the poorest countries in the world, with about 24 million people, or 95% of their entire population, living below the poverty line. In the 1990s, the country was impacted by a famine due to their poor agricultural systems. The land in North Korea is non-arable, but even if they do have productive harvests, it is predicted that the country would never be able to produce enough food for the whole population alone. Because the government refuses to effectively reform their failed agricultural policies, as well as is unable to import necessities from other countries, the North Korean people are still facing food shortages that started in the 90s. This has left millions of malnourished children, babies, and pregnant women in the biggest trouble, and has also caused a whole generation of North Koreans to suffer with stunted growth and a variety of health problems. Young children from both impoverished and wealthy families enter an education system that is filled with the country's ideology, and from the start, children learn that they owe everything to the great men from Paektu Mountain, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un. They are taught about their enemies, American imperialists, Japanese militarists, and the South Korean, quote, gang of traitors. The children in this video are singing a nursery rhyme to praise their current leader, Kim Jong-un. As they are taught thoroughly about the communist ideology, other political ideologies are entirely neglected. The school system does not broaden their students' perspectives on the world outside of North Korea, and rather suppresses any interest in other countries. After being provided with a filtered idea of life, the children are then taught to propagate the culture forward as they grow older. Jimin Kang, a North Korean defector, states, "I worked in the head office, but we would go around factories, schools, universities, and more, teaching people Juche, the state ideology of North Korea. This is the expected lifestyle of a proper elite young man of North Korea. I taught people North Korean culture and encouraged them not to listen to American pop music or to watch dramas from South Korea and China." Kang later admits to sneaking around to watch mainstream American films himself. Doing so can cause one to be arrested and, at worst, killed. Kang states, quote, "If people understand freedom or know how people in other countries live, it is dangerous for the North Korean government." Both the elite and the impoverished are, in the North Korean Constitution, Articles 67 to 69, given the freedom of speech, press, religion, and they are entitled to submit complaints and petitions. However, the actions of the government as well as testimonies from North Korean citizens prove otherwise. North Korea states that all of their citizens are given the, quote, genuine right to freedom of speech. However, North Koreans are not given the freedom of speech, as criticism of the government in North Korea, if reported, can lead to long sentences in political prison camps. As many are afraid to voice their political opinions in fear of death, it becomes obvious that North Koreans are not allowed the freedom of press or any free media whatsoever within the country. All in all, the only opinion allowed to be voiced inside the country is the voice of the government. Furthermore, as mentioned before in Shimin Kang's testimony, North Koreans are not allowed access to any foreign media. Yeonmi Park, a North Korean defector, shares her personal experience regarding this issue, as well as her early realization that political opinions should not be shared.
When I was 9 years old, I saw my friend's mother publicly executed. Her crime, watching a Hollywood movie. Expressing doubt about the greatness of the regime can get 3 generations of a family imprisoned or executed. When I was 4 years old, I was warned by my mother not to even whisper. The birds and mice couldn't hear me. I admit it. I thought the North Korean dictator could read my mind.
As stated in Article 68 of the North Korean Constitution, citizens are granted freedom of religion unless infringing on government strength. Kenneth Bae was an undercover missionary from Linwood, Washington, who preached Catholicism to the people of North Korea. He, along with his missionary group, were caught in November 2012. He was charged with possession of anti-DPRK literature, or in other words, Christian literature. Because North Koreans are taught to worship the Kim family, any worshipping of other gods is seen as a threat to the regime. While the citizens are given the rights of speech, press, and religion in the North Korean Constitution, the government is blatantly violating human rights to its citizens and are giving them inhumane punishments. To advance and further improve their country, the North Korean government must make it their responsibility to have their actions agree with the rights listed in their constitution. However, it is not only the government's responsibility, but also the responsibility of other countries around the world, as well as the responsibility of the North Korean citizens themselves. Many other groups, such as UNICEF, have helped in the past to bring humanity back into North Korea. However, the efforts of these groups are limited, as those who come from outside of the country do not really know what happens within, and do not have the power to directly control how the country will advance moving forward. Although North Korea is still the most closed-off country in the world, refugees leaving the country now are significantly more aware of South Korea and the outside world than they were 10 years ago. Many groups such as Amnesty International have made it their mission to bring means of communication into North Korea so they can contact the outside world. This awareness is also in part due to the increase of smuggled DVDs, illegal foreign radio and TV broadcasts, and the use of illegal Chinese mobile phones to communicate with those outside of the country. Those with access to this illegal information have the responsibility to share with others. They have the responsibility to use their broadened view to bring awareness to their peers about the lack of human rights their country is granting them. Many citizens are afraid this will bring them death, which is why change must begin from the North Korean government. Through pressure from the governments of other influential countries, the North Korean regime may ultimately end up giving their citizens basic human rights, which is the first step to developing a successful country. Due to the blatant neglect and violation of basic human rights, the citizens of North Korea are unable to accept the responsibility to bring a positive change, as they have been ill-prepared to lead and develop their country. The citizens themselves and the North Korean government are directly responsible for the future of their country, and the country as a whole is responsible for the future of global peace. North Korea is one of the last 5 communist countries in the world. To become successful in the future and to receive more support, their ideology will have to change, and the change must root from the government. Although it seems unlikely for the North Korean ideology to change, due to the strong legacy of communist leaders being worshipped every day in the country, the change must be brought to achieve the ultimate goal of world peace. Most importantly, the world must enact change to prevent this issue from being ignored, as millions of suffering humans in North Korea must not be forgotten.